Before your feet touch the floor, someone else's urgency may already be governing your mind. Think about it. Your eyes open, your hand reaches, and before you have remembered who you are or why you have been given this day, the screen begins speaking. A message needs an answer. A headline creates concern. Someone's success invites comparison. A problem from yesterday returns without permission. You scroll for a moment, but that moment becomes a mood, and that mood begins shaping the morning. Now you feel behind, but behind what? You have not yet chosen a priority. You have not examined your assignment. You have not decided what deserves your strength. Yet your mind is already running because somebody else supplied the starting signal. Let me ask you, who spoke first this morning? Who assigned your first emotion? Who decided what deserved your concern? Was it purpose or was it pressure? Was it truth or was it an alert? Was it the governing vision for your life or merely the loudest demand on your screen? My friend, this is not simply a time management problem. It is a government problem. It is a priority problem. It is a stewardship problem. Your phone may take only a few minutes, but attention is more than minutes. Attention gives influence. Whatever receives your attention begins interpreting the day for you. It tells you what is important, what is threatening, what is missing, and what you should do next. If comparison receives your attention first, you may carry inadequacy into your work. If conflict receives it first, you may carry agitation into your relationships. If urgency receives it first, you may spend the entire day reacting to what shouts instead of building what matters. Did you catch that? The first voice does not always remain the loudest voice, but it often establishes the atmosphere in which every later voice is heard. Reaction begins with what is demanding. Kingdom order begins with what is governing. This does not mean the message is unimportant. It does not mean the responsibility is unreal. It means a request must not become a ruler merely because it arrived early. A notification is an invitation to give attention. It is not a command to surrender authority. So before external demands receive access, we are going to restore 4 things in their proper order: identity, authority, assignment, and action. Identity answers, who am I? Authority answers, what will govern me? Assignment answers, what am I responsible for today? Action answers, what faithful step must I take now? You cannot direct a day whose first attention you have already surrendered. Attention must be governed before the day can be directed. But before we establish that 4-part order, we must go deeper. Attention is not merely a productivity resource. Attention is a gate, and through that gate, direction enters your life. What is attention? Attention is the mind's authority to select what will be noticed, what will be interpreted, and what will be acted upon among 1,000 competing demands. You cannot respond to everything at once, so attention chooses what enters the center of your awareness. That choice is government. Picture an ancient city surrounded by walls. The wall may be strong, the streets may be orderly, and the citizens may be prepared, but everything depends on the gate. Merchants approach the gate. Messengers approach the gate. Friends, strangers, and enemies approach the same gate. Their arrival does not give them the right to enter. Someone entrusted with the city must examine them and decide who receives access. Your attention is that gate. Every alert that appears on your screen is standing outside asking for admission. Every message is making a request. Every headline is presenting a concern. Every image is offering an interpretation of what matters. But listen carefully. A request is not a command. It becomes governing only when you grant it priority. The tragedy is that many people guard their houses more carefully than they guard their minds. They lock their doors at night, but open the gate of attention to every opinion before breakfast. They would never allow a stranger to walk into the bedroom and begin directing the household. Yet a stranger's anger, achievement, fear, or appetite enters through a screen and immediately influences the atmosphere. Did you catch that? Access creates influence. This is why attention is not merely a personal preference. It is stewardship. You did not manufacture this morning. Time arrived as a gift, but the allocation of its first moments has been placed into your care. You may not own tomorrow, but you are responsible for what you do with the attention available today. Scripture tells us to look straight ahead and to consider carefully the path beneath our feet. Notice the order. The eyes are directed, the path is considered, and then the life moves forward. What repeatedly holds your gaze eventually influences your direction. Focus is therefore not simply a technique for getting more work done. Focus is a spiritual discipline for keeping life aligned with purpose. An unguarded gate admits urgency without examination. A governed gate asks questions. Does this belong here? Does it deserve access now? Does it strengthen the assignment or scatter the mind? Is this information serving me, or have I begun serving it? Let this sink in. Attention is access. Access creates influence. Influence shapes direction. So examine your own gate. What normally receives your first clear thought? What triggers your first emotional response? What receives your first voluntary action? Those three answers reveal more about your governing priorities than your good intentions ever will. Do not merely ask what you believe is important. Look at what receives access. And now that we understand the gate, we must examine what happens when its first entrant is not truth, purpose, or deliberate thought, but a rushing crowd of alerts, requests, headlines, comparisons, and unfinished demands. Now watch what happens when that gate opens without examination. One alert appears. You tell yourself, I will only check this message. But the message contains a problem, so your mind moves immediately into response. While answering, you notice another notification. That one leads to a headline. The headline awakens concern. Then a photograph invites comparison. A comment provokes irritation. Within minutes, you have visited 5 emotional locations without intentionally choosing any of them. You woke up in your bedroom, but your mind has already traveled through someone else's crisis, someone else's success, someone else's opinion, and someone else's schedule. That is how reaction builds its government. It rarely arrives announcing, I have come to control your day. It enters as one harmless check, one quick reply, one interesting update. Yet every item carries something with it. Implied urgency, emotional tone, unfinished business, or a priority that belongs to another person. When these arrive before you have established your own direction, the morning agenda is inherited rather than chosen. Let me show you the contrast. 2 people wake up with the same number of hours and similar responsibilities. The first begins by answering everything. Messages decide the sequence. Problems determine the mood. By the time meaningful work begins, the mind is crowded, hurried, and divided. The second person does not deny those responsibilities. That person simply decides what the day is for before allowing demands to define it. Purpose speaks before pressure. Priorities are identified before interruptions are admitted. When the phone is finally opened, it enters an already governed environment. Same device, same responsibilities, different order. Do not misunderstand me. Technology is not the enemy. A phone can connect families, conduct business, deliver knowledge, organize work, and summon help. It is a servant of extraordinary usefulness. But disorder begins whenever a servant is allowed to occupy the throne. The problem is not that you possess a tool. The problem begins when the tool starts assigning your emotions and arranging your priorities. And morning reaction rarely remains in the morning. If the loudest alert chooses your first action, the loudest demand may choose the next one, then the next one. You spend the day changing direction, responding without reflection, and confusing movement with progress. By evening, you are exhausted not necessarily because you completed your assignment, but because you carried everybody else's urgency. The hidden cost is not merely the minutes lost to scrolling. The deeper cost is interpretive authority. Before identity could tell you who you are, comparison offered an answer. Before purpose could identify what mattered, pressure supplied a list. Before wisdom could establish your response, emotion began speaking. Remember this. If purpose does not brief the mind, pressure will recruit it. So the answer is not fear of technology, and it is not worship of a perfect routine. The answer is order. We must restore the proper rank of what comes first. Jesus gave a principle that reaches far beyond a morning routine. Seek first the kingdom and its righteousness. The decisive word is first. Now, many people hear first and think only about the clock. They imagine that if they give God 5 hurried minutes before opening an application, they have satisfied the principle. But first is not merely a time slot. First is a rank. It means highest authority, governing priority. the standard that organizes everything placed beneath it. Think of a great table prepared for important guests. The governing priority does not arrive late and accept the remaining chair in the corner. It sits at the head of the table. From that position, it determines where every other concern belongs. Work has a place. Family has a place. Money has a place. Messages have a place. Rest has a place. But none of them has the authority to rearrange the whole table. That is kingdom order. You can give God an early religious moment and still allow fear to govern the schedule. You can read a verse and then permit comparison to interpret your value. You can say a prayer and still let the inbox decide which responsibility matters most. The issue is not whether God appeared briefly at the beginning. The issue is whether kingdom purpose retained governing authority over what followed. Did you catch that? First is not the first thing you finish. First is the authority you continue consulting. An ordered morning does not promise that nothing difficult will happen. The phone may still bring unwelcome news. A child may still need immediate care. A customer may still complain. Plans may change. An ordered morning does not eliminate trouble. It establishes the internal government through which trouble will be answered. You cannot control every event that enters the day, but you can govern attention, you can govern interpretation, you can govern speech, you can govern response. External authority has limits, but internal responsibility begins immediately. This is why the practice must never become rigid. A parent may wake to a crying child. A caregiver may begin the day administering medicine. A shift worker's morning may begin when the sun is going down. Someone in emergency service may open their eyes already carrying urgent responsibility. The form must adapt to the assignment, but the rank must remain. Kingdom first may look like a protected half hour of prayer, reflection, and planning. On another day, it may be one conscious breath, one surrendered thought, and one faithful act performed under pressure. God is not imprisoned by your clock. He is concerned with government. The question is not, did my routine look impressive? The question is, what held first place when I responded? When urgency receives the mind before purpose, reaction rules. When kingdom purpose is first in rank, every demand must report to its proper place. Now that first place is clear, we can begin the four-part order. But before you decide what you must do, you must settle something deeper. You must remember who you are. When your eyes open, several voices may already be waiting to name you. Yesterday's failure says, you are still the person who made that mistake. Today's pressure says, you are not prepared. An unanswered message says, you are disappointing someone. A photograph says, you are falling behind. Before you have even stood up, memory, worry, opinion, and comparison are competing to define the person who woke up. So the first question of an ordered morning is not, what do I need to do? It is, who am I before anybody requests something from me, praises me, criticizes me, ignores me, or compares me? That question matters because action grows from identity. If you wake up believing you are behind, you will run without direction. If you wake up believing you must earn your worth, you will become a servant of approval. If you wake up rooted in kingdom identity, you can serve people without asking them to tell you who you are. Let me tell you something important. Identity is positional before it is emotional. You may feel tired, but fatigue is a condition. It is not your name. You may feel pressure, but pressure is a circumstance. It is not your government. You may feel uncertain, but uncertainty does not cancel responsibility, purpose, or the gifts entrusted to you. Feelings deserve acknowledgement, but they do not deserve the throne. Think of a passport. A traveler may pass through heat, cold, delay, turbulence, welcome, or hostility, but the changing environment does not rewrite the citizenship printed in that document. Citizenship establishes belonging. It carries rights, responsibilities, and expected conduct. In the same way, circumstances may change around you, but kingdom identity tells you whose you are, what you represent, and how you are called to respond. Your inbox contains information. It does not contain your identity. If you borrow identity from notifications, you will rise and fall with whatever enters the screen. Praise will inflate you. Criticism will diminish you. Comparison will distract you. Outrage will recruit you. Fear will hurry you. But when identity is received from purpose, external voices become information to evaluate, not verdicts to obey. So tomorrow morning, Before reaching for the phone, remain still for a moment. Acknowledge God. Give thanks that life has been entrusted to you again. Then say in language you understand, I belong to the King. I carry responsibility. I have been given this day for purpose. Do not say it as a charm. Say it as an act of alignment. When the self is settled before the feed opens, a difficult message can remain a difficult message without becoming a judgment on your worth. Another person's success can remain their success without becoming evidence of your failure. A demanding day can remain demanding without becoming your master. Identity establishes your position, but position must be exercised. The next movement is authority, the responsibility to govern what receives access through the gate of attention. Authority is one of the most misunderstood words in spiritual teaching. Authority does not mean that you control every person, prevent every interruption, or dictate every outcome. It means you accept responsibility for your response. You may not control what arrives at the gate, but you are responsible for what receives admission and what is allowed to rule. That is internal dominion. Between an incoming demand and your response, there must be a governed pause. Sometimes that pause is silence. Sometimes it is one slow breath. Sometimes it is prayer. Sometimes it is a deliberate sentence spoken before emotion turns into action. The pause may be brief, but it restores choice. Without a pause, pressure becomes instruction. So when you wake, do not pretend nothing is present. Name it honestly. I feel worried about the meeting. I feel tired from yesterday. I feel resentment about that conversation. I feel eager about this opportunity. Naming a feeling brings it into the light, but naming it is not the same as crowning it. Worry may speak, but it does not decide. Fatigue may be present, but it does not assign the day. Resentment may request expression, but it does not receive the microphone automatically. Anticipation may bring energy, but even excitement must submit to wisdom. Government is not suppression. Governed people do not deny reality. They assign reality its rightful place and proportion. Now return to the image of the gate. When a demand approaches, ask, does this deserve access now, later, through another channel, or not at all? Some matters deserve an immediate response. Some belong on the afternoon schedule. Some should be delegated. Some should never be admitted because they offer noise without responsibility, outrage without service, and comparison without purpose. My friend, a boundary is not rejection. A boundary is an expression of government. Perhaps authority means turning off non-essential alerts while you establish the morning. Perhaps it means charging the phone across the room so habit cannot make the first decision. Perhaps it means reserving 15 quiet minutes before messages are opened. The exact boundary may differ, but its meaning is the same. Access will be granted deliberately. Then speak in a way that positions your response. You might say, today I will receive peace before pressure. I will seek wisdom before replying. I will practice discipline when distraction calls. I cannot guarantee every outcome, but I can answer faithfully. Notice the balance. You are not declaring that nothing difficult will happen. You are declaring that difficulty will not remove your responsibility. You are not commanding other people to behave. You are governing the spirit, speech, and conduct you will bring to them. Identity answers who is standing at the gate. Authority determines who is permitted to speak through it. Only then are you prepared to examine the day itself. Once the gate is under responsible government, the question changes. You stop asking, what is demanding me? And begin asking, what has been assigned to me? We live in a time when activity is often mistaken for achievement. A person can answer messages, attend meetings, solve small problems, consume information, and move from one interruption to another until the day is full. Yet when evening comes, the central work remains untouched. The calendar was crowded, but purpose was neglected. Assignment is different from activity. Assignment is the responsibility that connects this day to the purpose of your life. It may involve your work, your family, your character, your service, your health, or the stewardship of something entrusted to you. It answers two questions. What am I building? And which part of that building belongs to today? Think about an architect. Before workers lift materials, cut beams, or pour concrete, they consult a design. Imagine workers arriving at a construction site and responding to whichever pile of material happens to be closest. One begins installing windows before the walls exist. Another paints boards that have not been measured. Everyone is occupied, but nothing is being built in order. Movement without a blueprint produces waste. Many people live that way. An invitation appears, so they accept it. A new opportunity looks exciting, so they pursue it. Someone asks for help, so they abandon their own responsibility without examining whether the request is right, timely, or truly theirs. But not every good invitation is your assignment. Not every open door is your door. Some opportunities are valuable and still wrong for this season. Clarity gives discipline a reason to say no. So before external channels begin supplying tasks, identify 3 things. First, what is the primary outcome that would faithfully advance your purpose today? Second, which relationship requires intentional care rather than leftover attention? Third, what quality of character must govern you while you do the work? Patience, courage, honesty, restraint, diligence. Now you are not merely planning production. You are aligning work, relationships, and character. When another demand appears, pass it through 3 filters. Is it right? Is it mine? Is it timely? Something may be morally good but assigned to someone else. Something may belong to you but not require attention now. Something may be urgent to another person but unrelated to the responsibility you must faithfully complete. Did you catch that? Clarity does not make you uncaring. It makes your care responsible. Clarity also weakens comparison. When you know what you are building, another person's visible progress cannot rewrite your blueprint. Their season may be expansion, while yours is preparation. Their assignment may be public, while yours is quiet. You do not measure a foundation by the height of somebody else's roof. Tomorrow morning, write your assignment in 1 plain sentence before you enter the wider stream of information. Make it specific enough to direct your choices and flexible enough to receive a legitimate emergency. You might write, "Today I will complete the proposal, listen carefully to my child, and practice patience under interruption." 1 sentence can become a compass. It will not answer every question, but it will remind you which direction is yours. Identity tells you who you are. Authority guards what enters. Assignment reveals what must be built. But a written assignment is still only a blueprint. The 4th order converts clarity into a faithful first act. A principle does not transform your life merely because you agree with it. Agreement may inspire you for a moment, but only repeated behavior gives a principle visible form. If revelation never becomes action, the old pattern will reclaim the day. So after you identify the assignment, ask one more question. What is the smallest meaningful action I can take now that proves this assignment has become operational? Notice those words, meaningful action. Not impressive action. Not dramatic action. Not the complete solution. The first faithful step. This is where many people become trapped by information. They read another article, watch another video, check another message, and ask another person's opinion. All of that activity can feel like preparation. But sometimes preparation becomes a respectable hiding place for delay. You already know enough to begin, yet you keep accumulating information because action carries responsibility. Do not consume another instruction when the next requirement is obedience. Return to the picture of the building. The blueprint has been examined. The materials are ready. Now somebody must lay the first brick. 1 brick is not the entire structure, but it changes the condition of the site. Before that brick, there was only intention. After that brick, construction has begun. What is your first brick? If the assignment is to write, draft the first paragraph. If a relationship needs repair, write the points you must address with honesty and grace. If your finances require order, review the next decision instead of worrying vaguely about the whole future. If your health has been neglected, schedule the appointment or prepare the next responsible meal. If your family needs your presence, place the device aside and give 1 person your undivided attention. The action may look small, but small does not mean insignificant. A seed is small. A key is small. A signature is small. Yet each can begin consequences far larger than its appearance. Daily transformation is usually built through ordinary faithfulness. 1 disciplined choice may not appear powerful, but disciplined choices accumulate. A page becomes a chapter. A conversation begins reconciliation. A reviewed expense becomes a wiser pattern. A protected moment becomes trust. What seems ordinary today may be constructing the life you prayed for tomorrow. When you begin one true priority before entering the wider stream of demands, you create momentum. More importantly, you create context. Later messages are no longer arriving in an empty room. They are entering a day that has already declared its direction. You can evaluate them against something. You know what has begun, what must continue, and what cannot be casually displaced. Now the order is complete. Identity establishes your position. Authority guards access. Assignment supplies direction. Action creates movement. Identity without authority remains vulnerable. Authority without assignment becomes empty control. Assignment without action remains a beautiful intention. But when all four stand together, the morning moves from reaction to government and from inspiration to faithful progress. And the true value of this order becomes clearest after the morning, when it begins governing the decisions you make about your time, your words, your resources, and the people entrusted to your care. The morning order is not meant to remain beside the bed. It is a portable government for every decision that follows. Consider time. When you have named the assignment, volume no longer determines value. A message may be loud without being important. A request may be urgent without being yours. The assignment gives time a standard. You can ask, does this demand belong inside today's purpose, or is it merely trying to interrupt it? Now consider speech. A settled identity does not need to answer every criticism, defend every motive, or join every argument. When you know who you are, you can listen without collapsing and respond without performing. You become slower to release words produced by panic, gossip, pride, or resentment. Governed attention produces governed speech. Then consider money. An attractive offer appears. The purchase promises comfort, status, or immediate relief. But purpose creates a pause between desire and decision. You ask, does this serve responsibility, strengthen the assignment, or simply medicate an emotion? Money follows priority. If attention is governed, appetite can be examined before resources are committed. Finally, consider relationships. Governed attention makes room for presence. It helps you know when to answer, when to wait, when to establish a boundary, and when to put everything else down and listen. One difficult interaction does not have to poison every conversation that follows. Let us walk through an ordinary day. A person begins the morning aligned, identifies an important project, and takes the first step. Then a stressful message arrives from work. The old pattern would answer immediately in fear, but the person pauses. Who am I? What governs me? What is my assignment here? What action is faithful now? The message is important, so it receives a thoughtful response, but not a panicked one. Later, an attractive invitation appears. It looks good, but it would consume the hours reserved for the day's central responsibility. The questions return. Is this right? Is it mine? Is it timely? The invitation is declined without guilt because clarity has already established direction. At midday, an unplanned expense appears. Instead of spending impulsively or pretending the need does not exist, the person examines it, adjusts responsibly, and refuses to use purchasing as emotional relief. Then someone speaks offensively. The person feels the wound but does not hand the wound a microphone. Identity remains settled. Authority guards the response. The relational assignment becomes reconciliation with wisdom, not retaliation with speed. The next family member, colleague, or friend is not punished for an offense they did not commit. Now compare that with someone who began under urgency. That person rushes through time, overspeaks under pressure, spends for relief, and carries agitation from one relationship into the next. The same day may contain the same challenges, but the internal government is different. Alignment does not remove complexity. It gives you a stable place from which to decide inside complexity. That is why these 4 questions must travel with you. Who am I? What governs me? What is my assignment here? What action is faithful now? But any useful practice can be distorted. If we are not careful, a discipline designed to produce freedom can become superstition, shame, or bondage. So we must address what this order is and what it is not. Let us remove a dangerous misunderstanding. If you touch your phone before you pray, you have not automatically destroyed the day. If you complete all 4 steps perfectly, you have not purchased favor, guaranteed success, or made yourself immune to difficulty. This is discipline, not superstition. The purpose of the practice is transfer, from reactive urgency to governed attention, from scattered thought to deliberate response, from pressure's agenda to purposeful responsibility. The sequence serves that transfer. It is not magic, and it must never become a weapon of shame. There will be mornings when immediate response is the assignment. A child becomes ill. A dependent adult needs assistance. An emergency call arrives. A caregiver may open their eyes and move directly into service. In that moment, answering the need is not distraction. It may be the most faithful expression of purpose available. Order is measured by government, not appearance. There will also be mornings when you forget, rush, or fall back into the old habit. You may look up after 30 minutes of scrolling and realize that attention has already scattered. Do not declare the entire day lost. Shame says, you failed, so continue failing. Wisdom says, return at the next available pause. Recovery is part of discipline. Put the device down. Breathe. Remember who you are. Re-establish what governs you. Name the assignment. Take one faithful action. You may not recover the first moment of the morning, but you can recover the next moment of responsibility. Some people must use a phone early for work, transportation, medication, family communication, or urgent information. The issue is not contact with the device. The issue is whether access remains intentional. Opening one defined channel for one defined purpose is different from handing every application an unrestricted entrance into your mind. And on emotionally heavy mornings, simplify the practice. Give one grateful acknowledgement. God, thank you for carrying me into this day. State one identity truth. I still belong and I still carry responsibility. Name one assignment. Take one next action. Small order is still order. Consistency matters more than theatrical intensity. Quiet, repeated decisions form character. Each time you pause before reacting, you strengthen discernment. Each time you return after drifting, you practice responsible recovery. Test the practice by its fruit. Does it help you serve more clearly, answer more wisely, carry deeper peace, and accept greater responsibility? Or does it make you proud, fearful, rigid, and judgmental? Healthy order produces mature service, not spiritual vanity. Now that the principle has been protected from rigidity, we can make it repeatable. Let us build a concise protocol for tomorrow morning and prepare the environment so the gate is easier to guard. The morning is easier to govern when the decision has been made the night before. So tonight, choose a realistic protected interval. It may be 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or longer. Silence the alerts that are not essential. Place the phone beyond automatic reach. Put a notebook, card, or sheet of paper where your hand can find it. Do not depend on morning willpower to defeat an environment designed for habit. Prepare the gate. When you wake, begin with identity. Remain still for a brief moment. Acknowledge God and give thanks for the gift and responsibility of another day. Then state who you are before reviewing what anybody else wants. I belong to the King. My life carries purpose. I have responsibilities to fulfill today. Second, exercise authority. Notice the strongest emotion already present. Is it worry, fatigue, excitement, resentment, or peace? Name it honestly, then submit it to truth and purpose. Say, this feeling may inform me, but it will not govern me. No demand will receive unexamined control of my attention. Third, recover the assignment. Review the larger purpose of your life and ask, what contribution belongs to today? Write one primary outcome. Then name one relational responsibility and one quality of character that must accompany your work. Perhaps your sentence is, today I will finish the report, listen patiently to my family, and practice integrity under pressure. Fourth, release action. Take one visible step toward the assignment before entering open-ended digital consumption whenever your circumstances permit. Begin the document. Prepare the conversation. Review the figures. Schedule the appointment. Complete the first faithful movement. Then, and only then, re-enter the digital world deliberately. Open the phone at a chosen time. Check defined channels in a chosen order. Separate information from obligation. Convert legitimate demands into decisions. Answer now, schedule later. delegate responsibly, or decline. Do not let every message remain in your mind as an undefined burden. If the morning is crowded, use the emergency version. 1 minute to remember identity. 1 sentence to assert authority. 1 written assignment. 1 immediate faithful action. Brief does not mean powerless when the order is clear. Practice this for 7 mornings. Do not measure perfection. Record what changes. Was there more peace before pressure? More clarity about priorities? More restraint in your responses? Better follow through on what mattered. If you drifted, note when the gate opened and adjust the environment for the next morning. Let the sequence become memorable. Receive identity, exercise authority, recover assignment, release action. Receive, exercise, recover, release. That is how alignment becomes routine and routine begins forming character. But the final movement is not more instruction. It is decision. We must now ask who currently owns our first attention, declare a new order, and commit that order to God. Return once more to that first image, your eyes open, your hand begins moving toward the phone, but this time, pause the hand. That pause is a moment of government. Ask yourself honestly, what currently owns my morning? Which voice receives my immediate trust? Which emotion is allowed to speak before truth? Which important assignment keeps being postponed because somebody else's urgency always arrives first? Do not answer with intention. Answer with evidence. Attention can be captured or it can be stewarded. The day can be inherited or it can be directed. Urgency can be served without question or it can be examined under purpose. The difference begins before the first response. Now say this with me. Slowly and deliberately, I will remember my identity. I will exercise responsible authority. I will honor my assignment. I will begin with deliberate action. My attention is a trust, and I will govern it with wisdom. Let us pray. Father, thank you for the gift of another day and for the purpose carried within it. Renew our thinking. Teach us to govern ourselves before we attempt to govern circumstances. Give us wisdom to recognize what deserves attention, courage to refuse what distracts from responsibility, and discipline to act on what you have entrusted to us. Let peace replace panic, clarity replace confusion, and faithful service replace empty activity. Guard our speech when pressure rises. Direct our choices concerning time, money, work, and relationships. When we fail, keep us from shame and teach us to return. Give us grace to begin again, humility to learn, and strength to remain consistent. May our attention serve your kingdom and our actions reflect your order. Amen. Before you sleep tonight, make one concrete decision. Choose your protected interval. Prepare the environment. Silence what does not need immediate access. Place your notebook where you can reach it. Write the first sentence you will read tomorrow. I belong to the King. I carry responsibility, and this day has purpose. My friend, a formed life is built from disciplined days. Disciplined days are built from governed decisions. And governed decisions often begin in moments so ordinary that nobody else sees them. One pause. One remembered identity. One protected gate. One faithful action. Do not despise the small beginning. Ordinary faithfulness accumulates. Attention becomes discipline. Discipline forms character. Character protects purpose. Tomorrow, before your feet touch the floor and before anyone else's urgency governs your mind, pause. Receive your identity. Exercise authority. Recover the assignment. Release the action. Let kingdom purpose establish the order of your day.